Alright, I'm going to go over some of the player options. So by default you get the standard player and standard styles, and we have a couple options built in so you can customize it to your needs. So if we go to our dashboard and we go under settings, you'll notice there's a link at the bottom once you've installed the plugin for the progression player. So if we click on that, we get a list of options. Most of them are fairly straightforward to go over, but I'm just going to hit on them real quick. So the first thing is the player skins, and as you can tell there's the 5 skins listed in the live preview. So let's go ahead and select the minimal dark skin for example, and click Save Changes. Then when we refresh you can see that your player has changed. And the other cool thing I wanted to go over was this custom skin option right here. And that was, if you select it, it'll bring up some options. And by default, this doesn't affect your skin. It just gives you the ability to change it. So let's say we want a different background color. You just click on the color, and then you're gonna select one. So let's go ahead and select red just because it'll be really obvious. So once we've selected the color, we can click Save Changes. And you'll notice now the color is listed under an option. And you'll refresh it and the main background color will change to the red. And then all the other colors will change or will stay the same unless you start changing those as well. And let's say you're like, oh, I really don't like the way that turned out. You can always clear that out and save your changes and it'll revert back. So you can do this with all of the skins and customize certain sections of them as you need. So it's pretty nice and handy to use the customized player. Then we have size, and this is just the height really. It should be height, and it's just normal and small. So if we save the changes, you'll notice the player just shrunk down about 20% shorter size, 15-20% shorter in height. And then you'll notice the icons have shrunk down a bit too in the text size. And so this is just to give you, additional options as far as height. Then we have some, global settings you can set. So start volume. I think in the live preview we have 50%, and that just means that by default the volume will be that. And sometimes you want to set that 100% if you have like a lot of content that's a low volume. But usually something around 50 to 80% is good, just because you don't want to blow out your user's speakers. And then you have enable autoplay. And these options are actually, you can tag on most of these options per player basis. But if you want to globally allow autoplay, it'll start playing the first one that you select. And if you always want to show the controls, this means if you hover over the video and you hover off, in a couple seconds you notice the controls disappear. And so if you always want them to display, you can click that yes, always display. It's just a personal preference on that one. And then loop playback just means, once the song is over, it'll just keep looping. And once the video is over, it will just keep looping. And then preload, this just means if you click metadata, you can refresh and you'll notice that the numbers now light up, and it'll start preloading some of the content for you. So it's kind of handy if you want to do that. We usually recommend none just because this can be a real killer on bandwidth. So if you leave it at none, it just means that it doesn't matter if there's a gigantic video file. If they don't click on it, it won't load it. But if they do, then they're usually interested in watching it, so it's no problem. And then show playlist or not show playlist, if you say uncheck that, it just means if you have a playlist, for example, we have one down here, it'll be closed by default. And then you can open it by, as the option. So sometimes you might want to close or open. That's how you can adjust it. And then the last thing I wanted to go over was the player width. And that's actually handled under your functions.php file. If you go under the documentation, we have a note on it right here and a link to the documentation. Basically all it means is basically in WordPress, a new thing they decided to add in a couple versions ago was the content width, and it just limits the media content width. And so you can use the functions.php file and just tag this in there for that.